importance of the right supportive community in general, but especially when it comes to entrepreneurship and business building. We all know it can be somewhat lonely and isolating. So, having the right community and having the right friendships is just so incredibly important. I think that the community you keep in life, but especially as an entrepreneur, is actually one of the most underrated success and happiness hacks that there is. I think it can be easy to think of education or the experience that you acquire in a role as the things that lead to success. And it's true, right? Like those things are definitely important and they do lead to success. But so are the people that you hang around with. And, if you take it a step further, it's really about the people with whom you share energy. And listen, to know me is to know that I'm always talking about energy because it's real, y'all, and it's all around us. I recently shared a short clip on my Instagram about just how babies borrow their mothers and caregivers' nervous system when they're young. People can also borrow your energy source or your nervous system as adults. If you're someone who's been doing the intentional work to have a settled and soothed nervous system, and you get around people who don't have that practice, what do you think happens? They end up borrowing your energy source. And that's why sometimes you can be around people, and when you are, you leave wherever they are being with them, you feel depleted. The point here is that you have to be very judicious and intentional about the company that you keep. You know the saying, misery loves company? It's very true. And you want to be around people that can uplift you, people who can hold the mirror up when necessary and keep you accountable, right? When needed, people who can celebrate you without making it about themselves, right? People who can be curious and want to be curious about you and what you're doing. And, generally people who can pour into you. Curating your community or your circles really truly, however, begins with self inquiry. And I cannot stress this enough, right? It's not just about going out and collecting friends or people who might be valuable to you because of who they can connect you with or the opportunities that they can give you access to. Like, that is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about curating a community and a circle that is intentional and nourishing for you. If these circles can do those things that I just mentioned, great, but that's not what I'm talking about here, right? It's not about being strategic in that way, or just thinking about this being a means to an end. When I talk about self-inquiry, what do I mean? These are the five questions actually, that I want to invite you to think about. If, this speaks to you, right? If you really want to be intentional about curating your circles and curating the energies and the frequencies that you want to be around. Okay. One is, who am I? Sounds simple, right? However, you must be able to answer this question without talking about your work, your business, your degree, your role, etc. No matter how personal any of these things are, you must be able to be clear, know who you are without talking about what it is that you do. Okay. Two, what values do I live by? So, so, so important, right? These are the things that anchor you when you find yourself in, tricky situations and you have to make some hard decisions. Going back to your values can be so, so supportive. Three, who am I becoming? Right? We're not static beings, or at least, if you're listening to this, sure, I'm sure that you're not, right? You don't want to be, right? You're dynamic, you're moving, you're growing, you're evolving, right? Who are you becoming? That's going to be so important, kind of related to the second question around your values, but also related to who do you want to, keep around. Four, what kind of people do I want? Underline, bold, right? Capitalize, want around me. And the reason why I am highlighting, right, this question of like, who do I want around me is because I think that sometimes, depending on, the work that we've done on ourselves, on our healing, on our self worth, we think about what kinds of friends and people I can access, right? Like what is available to me, who's already there, like think about long-term friends as opposed to who do I want, right? Like what do I want to intentionally go towards as opposed to what's just there for the taking. So really thinking about, what kinds of people do I want around me? Maybe those people are already in your circle. Maybe they're not, right? But I think it's just really important to ask yourself this question. And if we take this a step further, right, you could think about it as, what characteristics do I want in the people that are in my circle, in my close circle, right? Chances are that if you're an entrepreneur and you're tuning in, you already have a business coach, or you're part of some sort of like mastermind or some sort of like other coaching strategy focused container. And these containers are incredibly important, right? The people that you meet there, your coach, etc., are probably surely a part of your community, right? You might have even met your business bestie there. These are the people that you share a common experience with. Sometimes in these situations, the same for, people in your family, people that you've known for a long time, people you went to grad school with, etc., right? These people are just like automatically in your community, in your circle, right? Like there was like no intentional choosing. It's like we're here at the same time, we're experiencing the same thing. So, like, yes, we're part of the community. And what I'm saying is to take a look at that, right? When it comes to, let's say, business besties, or if you find yourself in a business container and, the people who are in that container end up being, friends or just people in your circle, you want to make sure that the glue that is binding you is not just that container, is not just that experience. This is really about intentionality. It's not just about things that just kind of happen happenstance. And the fifth question is why, right? Why do I want these people around me? Why is it important for me to have folks with these particular characteristics around me, right? That is going to also help you identify who you are. And also, just like a sidebar here, like if when you heard me ask the question like, who am I, and the internal dialogue is like, well, of course, Josie, I know who I am. you know let's just pause, just take a beat here, right? It's okay if it's hard to answer this question. It doesn't make you any less smart. It doesn't make you any less capable. It doesn't mean anything, right? Like let's be very clear to not attach meaning to our like very human experiences. I think that this is a dialogue with ourselves. Like it's a constant dialogue, constantly kind of coming back to this question of like, who am I right now? Like, how am I behaving? Like, again, just like building that deep, deep self awareness that I think is so, so crucial and critical, not only to lead businesses and to lead like the lives that we want, but also to be like awesome people, right? And human beings, and to build the legacies that we want to build. You want to start with a clear understanding of yourself, when it comes to curating your circles and community, because you want reciprocal relationships, whether you have been able to put language to it or not. I know that that's what you want, right? People who match your frequency and energy. And I'm not talking about like having groups that are just like clones or like homogeneous groups where everyone is doing the same thing, everyone sounds the same. Like, that's not what I'm talking about here. But you want people who can mirror you, right? People who, again, just like match your energy, understand where you're trying to go, understand your vision, understand how you operate, right? And don't feel threatened by that. I'm a very, very, very big fan of audits, period, right? They keep me honest and accountable. And when I talk about audits, it's exactly what that is, right? It's like going back and just let's make sure that I have dotted all my I's, crossed all my T's, that this makes sense, right? That whatever it is that I'm doing, anything that I am, putting my name behind, anything that I'm contributing my energy to actually makes sense. I do this with my Instagram, right? I'm constantly auditing who I follow, right? But sometimes, a version of me started following a page that this version of me is like, girl, we don't got time for that. No. I stopped following the shade room a long, long, long time ago. And honestly, y'all, it's one of the best decisions I made. But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different day. I do this with my Instagram, right? I do this with my business, obviously, constantly auditing like finances, for example, but also auditing just like where I'm going and what I'm doing. Again, does this make sense for my long term or even short-term goals, right? And I do this also for like my friend groups, right? Like in the communities that I'm a part of. I am often and frequently, consistently asking myself, does this work right now? Does this work in this season? Does this make sense for where I am trying to go? Right? How does this thing or person help me get to where I want to go? How does this person or thing enrich my life? How does it make me a better person? How does it nourish me? Right? So that I don't fall victim to, what's true about our world and our society is that we're highly distracted, right? Yeah, I don't know what the stat is at this point, but like our attention span is something like a few seconds, right? And that's by design. I have to put forth, and I'm encouraging you to put forth the effort to not be in this sort of trance, to not just do things because everyone's doing it or because it's quote unquote the thing to do, but that it's actually intentional and makes sense for where you want to go. Speaking of audits, I find that there are typically two types of people that can be the biggest energy leak, and having them around can really sabotage your success. One, people who don't understand your evolution, where you're going, or how you make decisions. And two, haters. AKA people who are envious of your success and how you move. And a quick story here. When I started my business journey as an entrepreneur, I didn't have a lot of entrepreneur friends. Most of my friends worked the traditional 9 to 5. And, if you're an entrepreneur listening in, you know that it's sometimes hard for folks to really understand your world if they're not an entrepreneur, don't work in a startup or another place or setting or rather a setting that kind of mirrors the pace of our world, of the entrepreneurship world, and kind of how quickly things change and just like how we move. I started to feel lonely and isolated. Like I didn't have a lot of folks to not just talk to about like business stuff, but also, what the business was bringing up for me personally. And of course, how it always happens, something happened that I wasn't expecting to happen. And that's that my friend group got smaller and smaller. Why? Well, you know what I say, the personal is professional and the professional is personal. And as I was growing my business, I was changing and evolving. And y'all, in the last 5 years, I've done some like massive, massive, massive quantum leaps. Like, I'm just gonna stop there. The point is that as I started to change and slow down and build capacity and develop inner safety, I started to see myself and the world around me and the people around me differently, right? Which is like makes a lot of sense. And the two types of people that I spoke about before, the people who don't kind of understand, what you're doing and where you're going and how you think, and the ones who are envious, they started to emerge very, very, very clearly. Like I could tell the people in my orbit who kind of fit into those two categories. With that awareness, I had a decision to make. Do I stay? Do I go? Are some of these friendships and relationships salvageable? I don't know. And so, I had to have those conversations, had to like tap into my intuition, right? And some were salvageable and some weren't. Some are thriving and some have ended. In that process, I've experienced a lot of grief. I want to highlight this emotion and experience because it snuck up on me. It's just something that you don't really expect. It can be a little counterintuitive because you're doing what's in the best interest of your goals and your business and you, etc. And here's this feeling that you wouldn't typically associate with growth. But my friends, for real, it is par for the course. You cannot grow without releasing something. You can't grow without something dying, right? It's the cycle of death and rebirth that I'm always talking about when it comes to entrepreneurship. What happens when you curate your circles? Y'all. I even like feel myself getting a bit emotional because I have such a special group of friends. So, so, so special. And, when you have people, right, who get you, who really, really see you, right? Like it's not about the degrees and the awards and like all of the things, all of the adornments. It's not even about like people who see you for you. And sometimes they can see you better than you can see yourself, right? People who can pour into you unconditionally, right? Like you don't have to do anything for them to pour into you. It's just what you do because they truly love you, right? When you have people who celebrate you better than you probably know how to celebrate yourself, it really truly is magic. It is magical. And I really wish that for everyone. It's this feeling of being witnessed, right? It's like one of the best feelings in the entire world. And in my opinion, really make this entrepreneurship journey that much sweeter. So please curate your circles. Go back to the self inquiry questions I shared before. Do your audits, make the decisions, sometimes the hard decisions, right? And watch how you'll soar. Because the thing is that when you're held and seen in this way, you can't help but be more successful. You can't help but be more confident. You can't help but really soar and like see yourself in ways that you probably have never seen yourself before, because it like helps you unlock your highest self and parts of yourself really that you never knew. And again, the right circles just make you a better person. You're deserving of that. I want that for you. All right, y'all, that is all for now. I'll see you next week.